If you had the task of following up one of the most critically acclaimed and legendary games of all time, what would you do? It's a tough question for sure. A question that might have not been asked or even considered by Fumito Ueda after the release and reception of Shadow of the Colossus, but of which the weight might have been felt just the same. The Last Guardian, as of 2024, still is the last game directed by Fumito Ueda, also known for directing Shadow of the Colossus and Ico. It is well known for being stuck in development hell, taking a good part of 11 years under development and transitioning from a PlayStation 3 release to a PlayStation 4 release. The Last Guardian was born after Ueda took notice of players being more attached to Agro, the horse from Shadow of the Colossus, than Mono, the girl, and wanted to make a game where that would be the primary theme. Players interacting and bonding directly with a creature in the game's world. Due to the creature's increased complexity in AI, physics, keyframe animations, topical details, and the world's massive scale, the development team were facing troubles in making the game a reality for the PlayStation 3's hardware. With the trailer shown in E3 2009 being a version of the game sped up through video editing. Development for the game was going slow, but Ueda and several Team Ico members' departures from Sony had made matters worse, and had all but spelled cancellation for the game. Ueda and several key members from Team Ico founded Gen Design, and had it not been for the ultimate decision to help Sony in finishing development for the game, it is very possible that cancellation would have been this game's fate. Shadow of the Colossus is one of my favorite games of all time. I played it way back in the day and it has changed my perception of games forever. I was very excited for whatever this team was making next, and it didn't take too long until some news about a new game showed up. But little did I know it would have been an incredibly long wait until any news about the game would show up again. Until E3 2015. Where PlayStation, during their presentation, would present a trailer starting with a single feather falling. And it made me absolutely lose my mind. While The Last Guardian wasn't as well received as Shadow of the Colossus was, and while it might be a bit polarizing among people in general, I think that it is mainly a misunderstood game that needs an open mind and a bit of patience, for, in return, it will deliver one of the most unique and memorable experiences you can have. In The Last Guardian, you take control of the boy that has woken up in an unfamiliar place alongside a strange creature known as Trico, that is chained to the ground and gravely wounded from their spears piercing his body. The boy has no recollection of how he got there, but tries to help the beast by removing the spears from its body and feeding it some barrels filled with some strange, glowing white substance. He gets knocked out twice after removing spears from Trico's body, but this, in turn, makes the creature friendly towards him. The boy then chains Trico from his shackles and both try to find a way to get out of the cave they dwell in, only to find themselves in a place with very peculiar and unique architecture, different from anything the boy has ever seen before, which he tells us as a narrator that this locale is the nest where the creature lives.
Aratizi, Otetara Lastuzi, Arakastakaru, Inokia, Ataduro Kutuzi, Yanomot Katunek, Aokuzi.
This is an adventure game, taking similar ideas from both Eco and Shadow of the Colossus in its execution, where you can both work together and guide each other along the path, with platforming and puzzle challenges that require the boy guiding Trico through the proper places within these ancient walls, while taking advantage of the creature's size to go to normally unreachable places by climbing the creature and ordering it to lean against a wall, jump, or do a multitude of other actions. While it doesn't have much in order of action, it doesn't mean it lacks set pieces that will require you quick thinking. In fact, it is filled with moments that will test the bond between man and beast in the most perilous of situations, requiring you to trust that Trico will be there to catch you when you have nowhere else to go, in the same way Trico trusts you to save it when it cannot save itself. I say this game requires patience because Trico is, well, an animal. And much like a house pet, it will be, at times, very stubborn and not do what you want it to do. This is usually where the frustration kicks in because you are often tasked to solve puzzles that require Trico to do something specific to proceed. But because of him acting like a curious dog most of the time, it can take some time to get the desired result, if it exists at all. You see, one of the main issues with the game is that it can be hard to know what you need to do a lot of the time. This problem can only get worse when coupled with the fact that whatever solution you might think is right requires Trico to do something specific and it just may not do it. So we run into the age-old problem of what does the game expect me to do? Something that happens often with adventure games, as game logic might not be in line with real logic. I personally didn't find myself with many problems in regards to this.
I agree. If Trico was easy to command, a lot of what makes the puzzles interesting and stand out from the other adventure games would be lost, and he would come across as just a tool to get from one place to the next, discouraging the player from getting emotionally attached.
Yeah, Trico might be a bit stubborn at times, and I may have entered the realm of doubt in regards to what I'm really supposed to do, but his stubbornness is part of the charm of such a lifelike creature in a video game. Besides, there are plenty of times where he is incredibly smart and will do a series of steps with one single command. All it takes is just taking some time to look around and explore, something that is very welcome in its most beautiful of worlds. The Last Guardian is a game that shines in its environments. From the mossy rocks and damp caves to the sky-high towers crumbling from time and all the intricate architectural environments you find yourself in. This game is pure eye candy. Anywhere you look at is screenshot worthy, and this is doubly true when Trico is in the mix. With his unique design and attention to detail, where every feather behaves individually and his body rightly adapts to any environment he's in, with minimal clipping. Trico, if left unattended, will do many things a house pet would do, like scratching itself, shaking off, and hopping around to name a few things. All of this making a package of, wow, this game is stunning. But the price to be paid for all this is a terrible frame rate. Keep in mind that at this time the PS4 is considered a really powerful machine, and despite all that, The Last Guardian is just too much for it still. Worst of all, the PS5 is absolutely capable of running the game in 60 frames per second, but that can only be done with the 1.0 version of the game, which is prone to crashing and has plenty of soft locks. Newer versions lock the game to 30 FPS, which, as long as it doesn't suffer from frame drops, might just be good enough. But it really is a shame that Sony doesn't make a performance patch for the game for PS5. While still on the topic of architecture, I must add this. The Last Guardian is one of the best examples of subtlety in design when pushing the player towards an objective. Recent gaming discourse online in regards to this topic revolves around the use of yellow paint to direct the player's attention to something that can be interacted with. This is a surging problem as graphics become more realistic and it becomes harder to tell what is interactable and what is merely part of the background. While I personally think that people should just press buttons near points of interest to see if it does anything, I get it. Games have become increasingly complex with time and you might not always know what button should be pressed when in a specific time and space. The Last Guardian might look like a simple game, with just a couple of buttons to worry about that make very specific actions. But its complexity comes from an environment where you can freely move around in and often need Trico's aid to reach certain places. The multiple ways this game nudges the player towards the right direction are aplenty. Certain camera movements to focus on points of interest, the usage of light rays to indicate openings when inside caves, contrasting colors through use of torches and alike when in darker, more confined rooms, and most important of all, when none of those are viable options, Trico itself is a guide. Feeling stuck? Pause. Observe. Where is Trico looking at? A platform? Can he jump to it? Oh my god, he can. Despite the complex and hard to traverse architecture, I've only had the need to look a guide up once when stuck because what I was required to do was kind of obscured through the lighting and how the objects were structured. But in every single other moment, the path forward has become abundantly clear as soon as I took some time to open my possibilities up and took some time to pause and observe my surroundings.
You don't get more real graphics than live-action cinema, right? But even in films, the process of building a set, choosing the perspective, camera movement, and most importantly, the use of lighting aren't done strikingly to make scenes realistic. How do you guide the viewer's eyes to where you want them to be and to notice the changes you want them to notice? Movies found the answer long ago. They don't need yellow paint and big CGI arrows to do it. Heck, even painted and illustrated art had solutions to this that could apply to video games. Composition, perspective, again, use of lighting, color contrast, those aren't there just to make a painting more pretty or more real. Goes without saying that more games need to learn from The Last Guardian how to use lighting techniques, environment design, and character behavior to guide the player. I'm just surprised so many people seem to have accepted the yellow paint solution as the only choice when there have always been more elegant solutions existing even before video games were a thing.
The funny part is that The Last Guardian does kind of have its yellow paint with the cyan tiles in some specific areas, but it's very few and far between, and they also blend really well with the world itself. Even in this situation, it manages to be very subtle and a prime example for player guidance.
Ayu Rabo, Oti Ukaya, Anetu Tara, Ate de Keda Lozi, Adatu, Onozi, Awo Kuku, O Mara Genara Wo So, Inaku Bastizi, Awizi.
People often like to discuss the topic of video games as art, usually when a game like this one comes around and stuns people with its unique visuals. I think that, independent from what you really think about this topic, there's no denying that this game has moments that really make you feel. And when talking about art, that's all that matters to me. It's just so many moments in this game are special, you know? Many cutscenes are gorgeous and worthy of being framed on a wall, but it also is about the little moments where you escape a damp cave into the warm outside sunlight and can see your next destiny. Those are moments where the soundtrack is expertly woven in, coming from moments of complete silence, other than the sounds of flailing leaves in wind, Trico's movements, and the boy's footsteps. This game's soundtrack has 19 tracks, which really isn't a lot, especially for an 8-hour game. And they're not bombastic like how it's done in Shadow of the Colossus. But each and every track is made with a specific purpose in mind, and each of those purposes are massively fulfilled, driving what would have been an already beautiful moment in any other game a whole step beyond. I'm not trying to hide any spoilers. Hell, this game barely has any story. A lot of it is up to interpretation, and I kind of like it that way. It keeps the mystique up and allows people to relate this game's universe with Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. What is the nest? Where did the tower come from, and why is it so different from everything else? Why are the Tricos rapturing people, and how did they fall into submission? You can see so many things hinted about an ancient civilization that praised these animals through environmental storytelling, such as this key valley in the game with a Trico statue semi-burrowed in the ground. But all that is long gone now. Were they eradicated? Was it something else? It really is up to you to make these interpretations. Honestly, the most you could be spoiled about this game is about what happens at the very end. But it still is something that is absolutely worthy to go in knowing as little as possible. A game like this really only comes once in a while. It's not a perfect game. It suffers from many things, and you may lose your patience with it. But take your time. Appreciate every moment. Maybe, by the time the credits roll, you come out of this with an experience that you won't ever forget. Your time playing is temporary, but your memories, those will last forever, like the bond between beast and man. Thanks for watching, and take care.